Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1965A, and today's date is September 9th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Trump Knew, Boris Makes His Move, Gold Will Destroy the Central Bank. Now, before we get started, I wanted to talk about protecting yourself. Nothing invokes full-scale panic like Wall Street panicking, but quietly, secretly, U.S. corporate insiders, they're preparing. CNN reported $600 million of stocks has been sold each day in August. This only happened previously before the 2008 crash. Meanwhile, gold is rocketing, and demand is at a 3-year high, according to the World Gold Council. Precious metals, gold, silver, as an IRA or 401k rollover will keep you safe and help you ride out the latest storm. Call Noble Gold right now at 877-646-5347, or you can hit the link below and you'll get the free gold and silver investment guide that has been downloaded over 50,000 times. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we know the deep state, the central bank, they're doing everything they possibly can to stop Trump, Boris Johnson, and many other leaders. We know that the patriots are making a push to get rid of the central bank, to separate their countries from non-elected leaders that are trying to control each and every one of these countries. Now, we know out in the UK, those individuals in government, they pushed a law to try to stop Boris Johnson. And Boris Johnson might have a move that nobody saw coming. Well, it seems that Trump and the patriots knew. And this would explain why Trump was saying that don't worry about Boris Johnson. He's going to be okay. He knows how to win. And now it's all becoming very, very clear why Trump has said that. Now, we know that Boris Johnson, he's going to suspend Parliament. But before he does this, he's going to try to convince lawmakers to grant him a snap election for the second time. But does he have a better plan? And it seems that he does. He has the simplest plan ever to go around the legislation that was passed. And I don't believe, and I think Trump and the patriots knew that the central bank deep state, they didn't see this coming at all. So right now, as we know, the establishment, those individuals that are going along with the EU, the central bank, they put this legislation together saying, listen, you need to ask the EU and you need to give permission to the EU. But think about what Johnson really needs to do. And it could be as simple as this, and it seems that this might be what Trump was talking about. All Boris Johnson needs to do, he needs to attach a letter to the Brexit delay legislation saying that the UK government officially does not request any extension beyond October 31st. Then ignore it. Now think about what Trump said prior to all of this. It seems that it all comes into context. Trump said, well, Boris is a friend of mine, and he's going at it. There's no question about it. He's in there. I watched him this morning. He's in there fighting, and he knows how to win. Boris knows how to win. Don't worry about him. He's going to be okay. Now, was Boris tipped off by Trump and the patriots? Maybe, maybe not. But it seems that Boris might have an easy out, and it's a simple plan where all he has to do is say, hey, guess what? We're not going to request any extension beyond October 31st, and that's that. Now, here in the U.S., Trump and the patriots, they are preparing for the transition. One way to do this is to limit the number of people that are dependent on the government, because we cannot have vast amounts of people dependent on the government when we go into this new economic system. Remember, the globalist, the central bank, they want the people dependent on the government. This way, it's easier to control them. If you're not dependent on the government, it's a little bit more difficult. And again, it's a big drag on government, which means the government has to continually borrow over and over and over. And since Trump has come into office, at least 6.2 million Americans have dropped off food stamps, and this figure was calculated from January 2017 to the present day. How much does this save the people? Well, the average monthly benefit for SNAP food stamp recipients is about $121 per person. With 6.2 million off of food stamps, Trump saved the country $9 billion annually. Think about this for a second. And we know why all of this needs to be done, because we're going to be transitioning out of this central bank system. And Q has told us that gold is going to bring down the Fed. Let's go back to post 3393. And Q back then gives us post 2619, where Anon asks a question, do we have the gold? And Q says, yes, gold shall destroy the Fed. And then under this, Q gave us a link to Trump's new Fed pick, which is Judy Shelton, who likes the gold standard, who likes sound money, who's on the same page as Trump. Now, remember all this, because this is where it gets really interesting. Market Watch put out an article, and here's the title to the article. The U.S. owns the world's most gold, with a reserve worth $373 billion. Here's who comes in second. Now, what's very interesting about this, it shows a map of all different countries of who has the most gold and who has the least gold. And all of this is coming out of howmuch.net. And it shows that the U.S. reserve of gold equals 8,133 tons, worth more than $373 billion. Germany comes in second with 3,369 tons, worth more than $154 billion. And then they go down the list to Russia, China, France, and all the way down. Now, what's very interesting about this, it says that countries have been ramping up on gold because countries were worried about the dollar. They're worried about relying on the dollar as a reserve currency. Think about this for a second. Why would they be worried about the dollar as a reserve currency? Because the plan of the central bankers, of the globalists, it was to shift everything away from the United States. And countries, those central banks in those countries, they knew that this was going to happen. This is why they were ramping up on gold, to protect themselves. It helps with a dying currency. It's an insurance policy. Now think about this. If the U.S. has 8,133 tons, and I know there's many people out there who say, well, the U.S. doesn't have it. Look at Fort Knox. But we are getting word that Trump and the Patriots, they have located the gold, and they have the gold now. It might not be in Fort Knox, but they have the gold right now. If gold right now is at $1,500 an ounce and there's 8,133 tons, what happens when gold goes up to 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 and the dollar declines in value? The world, with all these countries and people holding gold, this destroys the Fed. Gold, sound money, is worth something. The fiat paper is worth nothing. Right there and then, the central bank is completely exposed. Now, of course, did they want this way? And I'm talking about the deep state, the central bank. Did they want this all exposed like this? No, they didn't. The only reason that this is exposed like this right now, where when the system collapses and the fiat system collapses and people are going to see the gold price move up and they're going to say, wow, look at gold is holding its value and the fiat currency is not. The only reason we're seeing this right now is because they never expected Trump to win. They never expected any of this. They thought it was going to turn out completely different. And what I mean by that is they thought they were going to have this an event which covered all of this up. I mean, go back to 1971, where we had two economic systems running parallel, which was the gold standard, which we were on. I know not fully on the gold standard, but partially we were on the gold standard. And they were creating the petrodollar system. Remember, Henry Kissinger was in the Middle East creating the deals with all the different countries. Now think about this for a second. Back then, They used the story of speculators in the gold market, and this is why we had to come off the gold standard. If Trump didn't win and we had someone else in the White House right now, they would have used an event to explain why the system is crashing, most likely a war. And they would say, this is why the credit system is freezing up. This is why the shelves are bare. This is why everyone has to sacrifice. And behind the scenes, during the war, after the war, they would have restarted the entire system. No one would have been the wiser of who has gold, who doesn't have gold, that the fiat system collapsed. Nobody would even realize this. They would think it was because of the war. But because the other candidate didn't win, and that was Clinton, and Trump did win, they don't have this. Now, everything is out in the open. The story has completely changed, and not in the favor of the central bank. It's in the favor of the patriots, where now they can show everyone around the world the central bank fiat system does not work. After a certain period of time, it implodes under the weight of debt. What does work? Gold. And all those countries that have gold, they are protected. And you can see right now that this is exactly where we are headed. We're headed to a point where the people around the world are finally going to see that a central bank system, the one that we've been in, does not work. It doesn't benefit the people. It puts us into debt. And during this entire collapse of the fiat system, it's going to show everyone that gold is the winner, is sound money. It holds its value. And this is what the patriots are pushing for. And we are on our way. Nothing can stop this. Nothing will stop this. The patriots are in full control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.